Welcome to another best wildcard team video ahead of Game Week 10, and there are several changes from the last few editions, and we'll be talking about this and highlighting them, and I'm also going to be talking about some alternatives along the way. But I also encourage you in the comment section down below to provide your thoughts on what you would possibly change. Let's get this video to over 300 likes, and thank you very much for helping us reach 15,000 subscribers. We're now looking to go to new heights and new goals, so thank you very much, and let's get straight into this video. What hasn't changed yet again is the goalkeepers. I will just go for Ward and Nick Pope, and Ward actually kept the clean sheet and also got a bonus point and a save point to get 8 overall, and I benched him for Nick Pope, but I still think Pope is the one you want to start pretty much every single week. But if Leicester show signs of being consistent defensively, which I still would be very cautious about, then you could actually consider starting him in the easier games for Leicester City, and they've got some great fixtures. If you don't want to go for Nick Pope, then I would suggest the likes of Gaeta and also Pickford, who's probably my favourite, around 4.5 million, but you also have a few others that you could consider like Fabianski, but I would personally go for Nick Pope, but let me know if you disagree. The three defenders that are locked in for a wild card would be Reece James, Trippier and Cancelo, but the other two slots are definitely up for debate, and I've gone for Cody this time, who has been scoring more goals in the last year or so, and he has made a big difference to that Everton backline. But you could also go for Tarkowski at 4.4 million, who offers a bit better value arguably, and they're both decent for the bonus points when Everton do keep clean sheets, and they've actually considered the fewest amount of goals of any team in the Premier League, I think with 7, and Arsenal are second with 8. So that just goes to show you that the likes of Pickford, Cody, Tarkowski could be good options, and then after Game Week 12 you could bring in someone like Saliba to cover the Arsenal defence. But I've gone for Mark Gay here, and if you want someone a bit more offensive, then you could consider Timothy Castagna at 4.4 million, and he's decent for the bonus points and attacking returns. But once again, I'm not that convinced about Leicester defensively, but that's another option for you if you wish. And Kilman could be a decent choice, and Bruno Laga has now been sacked by Wolves, and let's see what kind of approach Wolves will have under the new manager and who the new manager will actually be. They've been linked with some kind of big names like Lopetegui, so that'll be interesting to monitor. But at the moment, I would go for a back five like this, and Gay has some great fixtures in the long term up until Game Week 16, which is very important. But once again, I think Cancelo is just kind of a nailed-on player there. He plays every single game, and he also has the bonus points. He's a machine for that, and he gets some attacking returns in the best team and defence in the country. Trippier is offering insane value. He was very lucky to get a return in Game Week 9, and as for Reece James, he is the only Chelsea player that I'd be fully confident about right now. But you could also, if you want, double up with someone like Fofana around 4.4 million. So be sure to let me know your thoughts. There's always going to be different options that people will consider, like Zuma as well at 4.5, but I would probably go for something like this on the wildcard. There's only one key change in the midfield here from last week, and that is Leandro Trossard, who just scored a hat-trick away to Liverpool, and he does face Tottenham next, but the fixtures after that are pretty decent, despite a few tough ones still on the horizon like Manchester City. But I think Brighton offensively could cause a lot of problems for any team in the league. I just don't trust them defensively, so to speak. But once again, if you're looking at the defence and you want someone for Game Week 12, they do play Nottingham Forest at home, so you could also go for a Brighton defender like Estupinian, Lewis Dunk or Veltman. But most importantly, I would recommend someone like Trossard, who also has some good fixtures before and afterwards, such as Brentford, and he is looking incredible. And I also highlighted him before the game against Liverpool as potentially the best asset under the new manager. And look, it's only one game, but what he showed in that match was of extreme quality, and Trossard could be even better than he ever was in FPL. And remember, he did end the last season very strongly, and he had a good start to this season under Graham Potter. But under De Zerbi, he could be a different beast totally. I've gone for Andres Pereira as the budget midfielder, and look, you could go for Leon Bailey as well, or if you really need the funds, someone like Reed. But I would try to go for Andres if you can, and he can be benched in most weeks and also come in when needed, such as Game Week 12. And then James Maddison, an 18-pointer against Nottingham Forest. I thought Leicester would score at least 2 or 3 goals, but also concede that amount, and I never expected Maddison to get 18 points, and that was the difference maker for me. And be sure to check out my team selection video from a 300,000 red arrow to a 300,000 green one, which is obviously very, very thankful for it, for James Maddison's performance. He is an incredible FPL asset, and he is someone I always prefer over the others around his price, even Phil Foden. And he is maybe the big omission here, you could say, along with a premium midfielder. But you also have to think about the Game Week 12 blank between Manchester City and Arsenal. You don't want to have more than 3 if you can, especially at this stage stage in Game Week 10, you've only got 2 free transfers before Game Week 12 to sort out your team. But James Maddison is a long-term hold, and I think is a great option. Hopefully he stays fit. And then we have Zaha, who has been quiet in the last few weeks, and he had an incredible start, and it slowly died down. But the fixtures are there now, and he's on penalties. He's a great option at that price and below. And we've also gone for Martinelli, who a lot of people are maybe getting a bit unsure about. And on the wildcard, I can understand your reservations. You might not want to go for him. But once again, at his price and below, apart from Trossard, and you look at Rashford, I think Martinelli is definitely the best option at your disposal. You also have Gross, but I wouldn't double up on Brighton midfield, despite the fact that I think Gross could also be really good under the new manager. And Martinelli got an assist against Tottenham. He looked electric, and he probably could have got more attacking returns. So the yellow card might have put a damper on things, but he's a great option as well in his own right. And we also have to think about the budget. And I haven't gone for a premium midfielder this time, but you still can. And if you were to go for one, if it wasn't for the blank, De Bruyne would be hands down the best option by far. But you've still got Heung-min Son, who has been terrible in most games this season, apart from Leicester and some games for South Korea. And then you've also got Salah, who has been decent, but just nowhere near the levels he has shown in recent seasons. So honestly, I would go for a midfield like this. And that will facilitate the funds to go for 2 premium strikers. Haaland is always going to feature, and unfortunately he has come to this stage where he has to be captain every single week at this point, and going away from him is always going to be risky, and it can pay off in certain weeks, such as going for Kane when he played Leicester City, for example, when Haaland played Aston Villa. It can pay off in weeks like that, but more often than not, just captain Haaland, and unfortunately we have to find differentials and ways of gaining rank in other areas, such as James Maddison in Game Week 9. And I have gone for Harry Kane, who's got some pretty decent ownership, under 20% at the time of this recording, and he is a fantastic option. He hasn't blanked in every game this season, apart from Game Week 1 against Southampton, and he's on penalties, so even when he has a quiet game like he did in the North London derby, he can still get returns, and I think he's a great premium option. And because De Bruyne blanks in Game Week 12, I would argue Kane is the second best premium to own right now. And I've also gone for Ivan Toney, but to be honest, you could go for Callum Wilson. And when you look at the fixtures coming up for Brentford, I would have to say maybe Callum Wilson is the way to go. And my concerns with Wilson is the fact that he's injury prone, and also Isak could be back fairly soon, and that will mean, you know, a lot of different questions being asked. Will they both play up front together? Will Wilson play one game and then Isak the other? We just don't know yet. But right now, I would maybe take a gamble on Callum Wilson, who has really low ownership. But if you want someone a bit safer, then go for Ivan Toney. And let's not even forget to mention the likes of Mitrovic, who is an injured out right now, but he could be cleared, and he still offers fantastic value despite some poor performances recently. So let me know who you would go for up front. But I think on the wildcard right now, I would take a gamble on Callum Wilson. You do have 2 other top elite strikers in Harry Kane and Haaland, who will just offer you that guarantee of points, and you've also got a good squad overall. So even if Wilson blanks or doesn't feature or gets injured, you're in a good place to deal with all of that. If you're really keen on Mitrovic as well, then that's fair enough, and you could still go for him over Callum Wilson or Harry Kane, and that's completely fine. But let's say, for example, you are really insistent on going for a premium midfielder, and that's completely, fair enough. Then you could go Harry Kane out for Ivan Toney or Mitrovic. So let's assume Mitrovic is fit, you can go for him, and then with that money, you could probably go from Zaha or Trossard, or even Martinelli actually, up to a more expensive midfielder. So we'll go here from Martinelli, and we'll probably go to either Sterling or Heung-min Son. Now with my funds, I'd actually be 0.1 million short to do this, but you may have the funds in order to do moves like this. And once again, a few other alternatives is maybe getting rid of Callum Wilson and going for a cheaper striker. There is still Solanke and a few others like Danny Welbeck, but I'm not that convinced about these budget strikers. And honestly, I would try to limit the pool of strikers to Haaland, Harry Kane, Gabriel Jesus, Mitrovic, Callum Wilson, and Ivan Toney. I don't have enough faith in the others, and I think it is worth going for 3 forwards, at least for the time being. But let me know what you think of this squad and what you would change. Once again, I personally, at this moment, would favour the 2 premium strikers. Once Salah starts showing some form, and Trent, and I know they both scored against Rangers in the Champions League, but once they show it on a consistent basis, then we can start to change our plans and start to bring these players back in. And that's why the premium midfielder kind of formation and structure could be best for most people, because it gives that flexibility. To finalise this video, I will just say the captains really quickly. Haaland will be the captain for Game Week 10 and Harry Kane will be the vice. In Game Week 11, you could go a bit different, but Everton have been very solid defensively, so Spurs may not even score that many goals in that game, but let's wait and see, of course, and hopefully we have a bit of variation in the captaincy and we can finally start to deviate away from Haaland. And this team that I've showed you, the best wildcard team for Game Week 10, actually costs 101.5 million for me, and if you were to go, for example, to Heung-min Son and another striker such as Mitrovic in for those two players that I showed you earlier, Harry Kane and Martinelli, that would cost 102.3 million. So that's a bit more expensive, but this should be affordable for most people. I know some won't have the funds, and that's completely fair enough. You can make compromises throughout this team, such as Cody down to Tarkowski or another budget defender, and there's a few other things you could do as well. And you can also leave your concerns or any suggestions down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, found it useful, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this video to over 300 likes, and thank you very much for helping us reach 15,000 subscribers. We're now looking to push on to 16,000, and then the kind of next big target is 20,000, which I think we could do by the end of the year and definitely by the end of this season. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and also become a patron or a channel member. The links are in the description below. And thank you very much to all the channel members and patrons who have signed up. We now have over 50, so thank you very much. And I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 10 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.